Hello everyone and a very warm welcome to the channel. So today we're performing flight Chanex 1303 from Manchester down to Lanzarote. As you can see, we're in a Jet2 A321 NEO, so it's the latest addition to their fleet. So you may or may not be aware that Jet2 have placed an order for quite a significant number of the 321 NEOs, and they're expected to arrive in the fleet over the coming years ahead. But as we say, this is the first one, and we're just substituting one of the existing 321's current engine options for our flight today. So we'll just start with the overhead panel. We'll just do our tests for engine 1, the APU, and engine 2. So just note at the moment we're running on external power, and I've just got the fuel pumps off because in a moment we'll call for our fuel. Let's go ahead, put these onto nav. Just going to pop out the McDo's, and then we'll set the QNH 1015. So temperature here in Manchester is around 15 degrees, and the runway in use is 23 left and 23 right. We'll actually just use 23 right today for departure. Just checking the data page, and we have got the latest air-rack cycle. Over to the init page, we'll hit init request, and what we wanted to do is pull in our flight plan from Debrief. Just verifying there that our IRSs are aligning, and someone's already tried to have a joke with the captain there of putting in a flight level of 230, so we'll just go ahead and correct that. We'll put in 350, and this is why you check things. So now to the flight plan page. In fact, what we should be doing is initiating the refueling, so we're just going to go ahead, set this to 13.5 tons, so each double plus goes up in 1 ton increments, and then each minus sign or single plus sign goes in 100 either way. So 13.5, request refuel. I've just gone ahead and put the legs page, the flight plan page, onto the right hand FMS. So departing 23 right with a Cookson 1 Romeo departure, and let's go ahead and we'll insert that. 3 hours 40 nearly, and that agrees with our estimate as well. Of course, I've not loaded in the winds, they're very insignificant, so I'm not going to go ahead and put the winds in at this stage. We'll of course evaluate if we need to enter the winds for our descent. Just verify that refueling is happening, and just while we're there, just in terms of other items that we're just waiting for, still just waiting for the IRSs to align, but of course we've got the message on there that says the ILS alignment time, and currently that's estimating 3 minutes. Let's go ahead. I'm going to put something in the RADNAVs today. So we're just going to put in there the Manchester VOR. Just confirm the one that's, well, in our case it's the one that's nearest. And course 232. In it goes. So back to init B. So after the adjustments it looks like this, and really what I've done, I've increased the reserve amount just because the amount of trip fuel that's showing here is about a ton and a bit less than what's on the flight plan. So I figured if I just increase that, alternate looks about right, final looks about right, with 0.3 tons there of extra fuel based on what we're loading of 13.5 tons of fuel. Okay, so I've entered everything in here. Do remember as well, on the channel there's a great video where I go into a lot of detail as to how to use this page. So for now I'm just going to leave the flaps blank as well today, and then we'll just use the value, or we'll consider to use the value that the takeoff calculator gives us. So I'm happy there with those figures. Let's go ahead and we'll insert those into the performance page. Just verifying everything there. That's fine. So it's a config 1 departure with the V-speeds there on the left hand side. So we'll just come to the progress page and just verify that the cruise level that we are proposing is sensible in terms of the optimum and the maximum, so I'm very happy to go with that value. Just going to pop in there the airport ICAO and the arrival runway just to verify the distance as well. You know the next bit, we go to the secondary plan, make a copy of the active, and we'll go back to the flight plan page. Okay, so thinking about what's next, let's come down to the APU page. We're going to start the APU. We're still being refueled. Okay, we'll have the message flap open, so off we go back upstairs, hit start, and we'll go for the APU bleed as well. Leave the fuel pumps off for the moment, and the passenger signs. Let's come down to the FCP and give this a bit of attention. 1015. You know you can verify this as well just by looking at the altimeter there as well, so that's about right for Manchester. Ranges, that's fine. Let's go ahead and set in our initial altitude and we'll go, let's verify, yep. Okay, so we should have 1FD2, that's fine. Okay, so refueling has completed. Let's now go here and switch off the external power. Can switch on the fuel pumps as well. 6 switches there. Verify that. Seatbelt sign can go on and just use the nose. Still called no smoking, is it? Okay. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead as well and request pushback.
Ground to cockpit. Tow is driving up.
Good. So a few more actions down here. We can now go ahead and get the power to drive away from the aircraft. Low pressure air, we don't need that anymore. And we'll get the chocks removed, but first off we'll just go ahead and set the parking brake. Let's lock the flight deck door as well while we're here. And chocks away, don't need that menu. Okay, so we can do our takeoff check down to the line. Preparation complete. Signs on. Fuel quantity.
All doors and hatches are closed. Ready to connect.
13.5 tons of fuel verified. Takeoff data as discussed. Barrier ref 1015. Set. Cross-checked. Windows and doors are closed. So we'll go below the line now. Apologies, I did not state that. Anti-skid, nose wheel steering, so as required. Beacon light is on. Thrust levers, they're idle. Parking brake is set and the mobile devices are off. Okay, so it's just set to release parking brake. And away we go at 15:33 Zulu time. Let's set the right hand chrono and we may start engines. So come down here, bleed air page, let's just put the mode selector over to ignition and just remain visual down here just while that happens. Just making sure we've got sufficient bleed air to start the engines, and let's go ahead. We're going to start engine number 1. So we'll bring up the engine page, both upper and lower ICAM. One's available. Temperature peak there at 574. Starting engine 2. Okay, so it's just told us to set the parking brake. So parking brake set. Just watching engine 2 there. EGT still rising. Shouldn't be much longer now before that peaks. Surveil 569 I think it is, and it's just starting to fall away there. So the winner of the EGT competition is engine number 1. Okay, so we'll disconnect and go to hand signals. Let's now do our tidy up actions. So we'll go with the bleed air off, switch off the APU, come down here, on the spoilers, and auto brakes to max. Pop out the, actually we don't need to pop that out, we can just come down to the flight control page. If you remember, the trim is 0 units, so just do a flight control check. Elevators down, neutral, up, neutral, full left, centre, and full right and centre, and rudders left, centre, and right. Okay, so we'll just wave to him there. It's just showing us the pin. Okay, so we'll go ahead, we'll release the parking brake. I've put the taxi light, the nose light to the taxi position. Just creeping forward there, but we'll just do the after start checklist then as we taxi. So anti-ice is not required. Anti-skid and nose wheel steering. That's also that's going to be on. Recom status checked, and the trim is 0 units. That's set. So we'll just find our way out of here, and I'll see you near the runway. Just going to go ahead and put the strobes on as we are now entering the, crossing over the line there. That denotes the active runway. So there's the first officer of mine just put in the no they're not, lure stopped. Oh. See, the first day of flying the new plane, and we've gone and broke it already, haven't we? I know exactly what that is now, what the error is. So it's just during the transition to X-Plane 12, not all the variables that I was used to reading are available, so I just need to have a look at the script, but I know where to look. Below the line, takeoff runway. It's 23 right, that's verified, and the packs are remaining on. So, November Bravo, you are in safe hands for your first flight down to Lanzarote. Let's put the terrain radar on, and off we go. Both stable. Flex 73 SRS runway thrust is set. 80 knots, that's checked. Hands off the control, the stick, side stick. Watching for V1. Hands now off throttle and rotate. Bye bye Manchester. See you in about 9 hours. Positive rate and the gear up. Let's just level off the wings there, of course. I think I just overcompensated. Nose down a bit to follow the flight director. It's fine, so slight crosswind. Autopilot 1. Watching now down here for climb. Hands can go back onto thrust levers. Anytime now, climb. Okay, hope you enjoyed our preparation and departure out of Manchester down to Lanzarote, and we'll show you the landing on this flight, which will be in about 3 hours, 3.5 hours or so's time. Thanks a lot for viewing. Any questions, comments, do let me know. welcome back everyone. We're in our descent down to Lanzarote. There's the island here. Just looking, first off we've got an altitude constraint coming up, 130. Let's just go back to the FMS. So 130 is here at Nurpo, and then we've got 80 down at Aladu. I'm just going to dial that in, push the button, and what we will find is it will of course level off at 130. You can see here it's in magenta. That means you just think about what you're seeing here on the FMS. You've got the magenta, the restriction here, denoted by the magenta star. So what that means is, hey folks, we ain't going any lower than 130 in managed descent mode. So you see there as well, it's got the alt in magenta enunciated there, and speed is just making up its mind there with what it's doing. I think we're coming back to 225. Let's just finish off what I was showing you. Auto brakes are... I'm not going to select the auto brake. What we'll do what I like to do here. So back to the perf page. Next phase, there's the approach phase. So QNH 1018, 21 degrees, nice and warm there. Winds. So I've got 30 at 0. It should be 30 at 5. That's why I say check and check and check again. You can just hear the wind noise kind of lessening, the wind noise over the airframe lessening as we slow down here. So we're coming down to green dot speed, clean speed. Okay, so we've got landing config. Let's go with a config 3 as well. And best make sure we arm the spoilers, which they are. So okay, so we're going to ride the rest of the descent down in managed nav mode. Just means that we come slightly east of the airfield as we just follow these constraints down. Just wanted to mention here, of course this is the vertical speed, so currently we're just descending at 1000 feet per minute. Green dot here is your deviation from VNAV profile. So right now no deviation, and you can confirm that as well on the progress page showing 0 feet. It should now make a good job of getting us in. We shouldn't have any surprises there. What we also did the forecast winds. You probably might think it's a bit suspicious. Why are they all the same wind speed? It's just because I rounded them up, so the winds weren't significant. Remember earlier I said I might enter them if they are significant. It's probably not significant enough anyway. But the point is, by putting in that forecast, it's given us a nice descent. It's not been diving down trying to catch the VNAV profile. We've just been nicely on our profile. So yeah, just entered those in manually. I entered the bits in from the wind forecast section of your flight plan, and don't worry as well about getting them spot on. It's there, it's exactly what it says. It's a forecast. It's just to help VNAV. It's just to help VNAV out, give it more clues. Right, so we're just flying away there at Lanzarote, and there's Fuerteventura. So we're just going to fly a bit to the, like we said, a bit to the southeast, and then come back here to Golfi, and that's blue line there is 11 nautical miles. What's the next alt? So we're just levelling here. I'm just going to select 3000. Push the button again. Shouldn't do anything just yet because we're holding off here. 6 is actually the next one. So you see, even though I've dialed in 3000, it's saying my next constraint is 6000, not flight level 60. So until we fly over that constraint, you can dial in what you want there. So long as you remain in managed navigation, it ain't going to go any lower. Let's go with the altimeters 1018 set and cross-checked. So we've got the spoilers, they're armed, coming down, deceleration points ahead. On the PFD, these little orange lines here, providing you are below those, you can take the next degree of flap setting. So in our case, that's going to be config 1. Okay, so terrain radar on, 1020, config 1 now then please. And it doesn't tend to make too much difference, I find, in the speed on a 321. But that's how her creators made her. They borrowed the wing from a 320, slapped it on a, well, extended the 320, and then it evolved into the NEO. Okay, so it's got the speed here between these 2 points here. I do like how the magenta triangle just kind of parts, if you like, and it's saying there between those 2 speeds. And now it wants to go down to 151. Let's go ahead, see if we can arm the approach mode now. And it's just reminded me there that I didn't select the localizer display. That's what that button does, that side. Levelling off. Now's a good time to go with config 2. We'll just do speed checks. We are below there, the double orange lines. Config 2 set. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to just go into selected speed, making sure I set a safe speed there. 180, bit of ballooning as we did that. And then we want to be coming down to 2,300 at Golfy. So we'll just set the selector here to hundreds of feet instead of thousands, and push the altitude button again just to get us to select that. We are now turning, and we should be, let's just switch the dome light off. Seem to have got that selected again. So just looking for the runway to come in sight. It's quite an interesting view, isn't it? There's the runway. Okay, so it's got the glide slope and localizer there ready to capture. Localizer's just captured. Let's just ding the cabin. Just going to remain there in selected speed for a moment of 180 knots. Revision to the brief, I'm going to go with auto brakes low, and I've got there the message landing flap full that it's expecting. That's because I didn't push that button there. So that's now sorted. Let's just twiddle this down to about 165, and we're going to go then with gear down. About 5 miles to go now. Okay, and we'll go with config 3, speed checks, and I'm gonna go back into manage speed. So the auto thrust will remain engaged while I hand flyer the remaining few miles. Let's just reset the view there. Okay, so final check around there. Everything's looking good. Speed, if you notice, it's holding there just above 160 knots. So that's what the auto thrust system will do. Just gradually, it'll gradually bring the speed down. Autopilot is now disconnected. Yep. So hands on thrust levers.
1,000.
Got that wind as we expected. About 20 odd knots. From the right hand side of the nose. So just thinking, keeping her of course on the glide and the localizer. As that wind shifts around, we should be prepared to make any control inputs necessary. Checking the pappies, 2 whites, 2 reds.
500.
So just left a bit. Just level the wings. We're okay there on the rate of descent. Notice how it's brought the speed down from what was talking about, right a bit. There, I'm just thinking,
100 above.
looking okay there. Probably just slightly below the glide, but
Minimum
let's just now follow what we can see.
100.
So over the threshold, not quite at 50.
40.
Let's just get her on the centre line.
Retard. Retard. 10. Retard. 5.
Okay, so slightly to the right there, a bit of stuttering. Let's go with auto brakes and reversers. So we're down to 90, down to 80, 70. Reversers will now start to lose their effectiveness, so let's go and stow those, keeping the auto brakes doing their thing. There's 40, 35, down to 20, so we'll kick the auto brakes out. Quick bit there of the landing summary. No butter here, we'll land on a runway, not in a dairy. 3 hours 51. Just a touch more of brake there, down to about 10 knots, and we'll vacate the runway just here. Got a bit of stuttering going on there, as we said. Okay, and once we cross the line here, do our runway exit actions. So use the first officer to do that. It's triggered by just switching off the strobes. I'll just do the flaps and the spoilers. Reason for that is they're hardware controlled, so I have the Thrustmaster Airbus pack with the flap lever and the spoilers. So a bit of power needed here, and then just to remain on that line there. Felt okay about the landing. What we need to do now is switching off these, of course. Not an immediate requirement, certainly the terrain radar is. I want to bring up the wheel page. Let's see how hot. Yeah, those brakes are a touch warm, so we've got the brake fans on. Just come up here as well. I'll switch off the landing flap 3 button there. I think I felt okay though about the landing. Probably ate a bit of runway, but it looked like we're in the touchdown zone. But anyway, we'll have a good look at that at the end. Right, I'm just doing my own guidance here onto stand 22. Need to keep a bit of power on that bit. Is certainly sloping downwards, as you saw when we exited the runway there. Let's try and keep on the centre line as best we can. Just feel how the plane wants to slow down a bit, so I'm guessing that's an incline as well. Okay, so I'm just going to hold it by the toe brakes while we go ahead and we'll set the parking brake. You can see I've left the runway turn off lights on, so we'd probably switch those off as we've got to stand. So that's off, and taxi light also off. Let's go ahead, we'll just go get our respective services, so we'll get some ground power. Okay, so we've established the respective ground power. Brakes are starting to cool off, but we'll switch off the brake fans and dome lights. Can use that now. So external power is established. Let's go ahead, we'll connect that, and we'll now go ahead and we'll cut engine 2 and engine 1, and let's just verify that they are running down. everything's running down there. You saw the flicker of the screens as it transfers the power onto the external power. Okay, what else? We'll just go ahead. We'll switch off the fuel pumps and check again. They're now running down. So beacon light off, seatbelt off, and there we are. November Bravo's first trip down to, well, its first revenue trip down to Lanzarote. Not sure yet where it's going in the real world. I've got an alert set on my phone, so as at the time of filming this, early April, it went to my home airport, East Midlands. It's painted there. It's gone up to Manchester, so I assume a bit more work needs to happen on it in Manchester, maybe. Not sure, but anyway, I've got an alert set on my phone on flight radar for when it gets above 2,000 feet. I'll be alerted, and then we'll see where it's going on its first flight in real life. But I hope you've enjoyed this. Quick check on, we know how long we took, 3:51, 4:14 from the gate. The flight time said 3 hours 38, but if you recall, I didn't factor in or type in the winds. Fuel page, we've burnt less, haven't we, than forecast. So the plane itself, let's zoom in here. The plane itself, remember when we was looking at the FMS, that said we would use 8.5, so we've used 9.3, under a ton difference. Debrief called for a lot more, but of course Debrief is only as accurate as the airframe profiles that you use, and I think I actually chose one for the other engine variant of this. So yeah, it's only as good. Garbage in, garbage out. But reasonably good forecast. We was in a comfortable situation on our arrival with the fuel. We spoke about the brake temps. Now again, let's just have a look at the doors page. Yep, everything there is various services coming on board. People leaving the plane. Let's just switch the Adair's back to the off position, and then we'll do an alignment in a moment. We'll remain on external power until we are ready to do our preparation and return back to Manchester, but I won't be streaming that or doing a video on that. Constraints off, and then probably the other thing to look at is stable approach. Show the reports. Now I thought we'd used up quite a bit of runway there, so let's have a look at these items here. So of course we landed on runway 3 in Lanzarote. We were stable. The threshold crossing height, so that was a touch low. I actually thought we were high there coming over the threshold, but wouldn't want to be any lower than that. Deviations, not too bad. Maximum sink rate, yeah, so that's all within the limits, I would say. Touchdown rate minus 189 foot per minute, and were we in the touchdown zone? That's what I'm wanting to know. So bit of centerline deviation. That could have done with being less. Threshold crossing, okay. Threshold distance, yeah. So 1,500 feet's ideal, but we didn't float too much. Pitch attitude 1.1. Maybe, yeah, could have been just a touch more. It is a sharklet, of course, so we don't want to be flaring too much. And crab angle, etc. Do you notice what it doesn't say on here? It doesn't say anything about butter. That's because I land on a runway and not in a dairy. But I hope you've enjoyed the flight. Any other route requests? Drop them in the comments. Let me know what you think of the video. Thank you for viewing, and I'll catch you on a future flight. Thanks again. Bye bye.